Good afternoon. My name is Dave Bugayo, and I'm here with Manny Angulo, and we're the co-founders of PISTLE, PISTLE, Post-Incident Stress and Trauma in Law Enforcement. Manny and I decided to start a podcast to hopefully better inform not only officers but the public on what you deal with uh, on a day-to-day basis after experiencing a traumatic incident that stays with you.
Bring awareness.
Bring
Not
awareness.
just
Yes. Maybe we bring some understanding for those who like to believe that PTSD is a choice, if you can believe that.
oh yeah, people have
it's-
said that.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating for people like me who went through some things that caused some issues in my life with me and my family, and ultimately put me in a position where I had to re-career.
And find the people hiding in the shadows, right? The ones struggling.
Well, that's what we do now, right? I mean, we saw a need and we're trying to fill it. And
Right.
so a little bit about Pistol is it's a nonprofit that we started here in Arizona in the Phoenix area, and it was designed to provide external anonymous peer support for sworn police officers who experience trauma on the job and you know haven't been able to shake it. So a lot of times we find that in the years that we've been doing this, we've got almost 5 years under our belt, and a lot of people have come through our doors, and we've been able to help people. So from experience, I can tell you that some of the things that we see in the line of duty, we're able to shake off. As a matter of fact, probably most of the things that we see, we've been able to shake off as cops. We have those incidents that sting a little, but eventually we're able to compartmentalize and put them away, and that's always been the way it seems that we've dealt with things.
Well, I think in
And-
the beginning it's cool, right? Because we don't see a lot of this stuff. You see that stuff on TV, and when you're there, it's adrenaline. You want to talk about it more. You're more anxious to get stuff out. And as time goes on, you just kind of, it becomes the minutia of the job. Where
Right.
you just go to another 963 or car accident, fatal, and now it's just more paperwork. You
Right.
you stop seeing the human side of things, and that's a fatal. You call recon guys in to deal with it, so they don't have to take the paper.
I think that's what we tell ourselves, is that we don't feel or see it really for what it is anymore. And I think that when you compartmentalize and you keep boxing things up and throwing them in the back of your pickup truck, and you finally hit that piece that you can't shake, and then all that nonsense that you put behind you comes crashing into the bed with you, and you're forced to deal with all of it.
Right.
And that's what we talk about when we speak of a lot of incidents that have accumulated that eventually come to a head. But there are incidents where it's a one and done. There are incidents, and I used to think that mine was one incident. And I'll tell you, a little bit about myself. Back in 2010, I was working, and we were doing a drug reversal where we were posing as the dealers, and we had buyers coming in from different places, from out of state, and dealing in bigger quantities. Here in Arizona, marijuana is a huge trade.
And that's what your department was known for.
Yes.
You were the only ones really doing that big of
Yes,
reversals.
Yes,
You got away with it
Chandler
quite
was
a
doing
bit.
huge. Chandler, Arizona was doing
Yeah,
huge
calm down.
deals.
Wait,
Yes.
wait.
So,
Let's hear the rest of the story.
So we were posing as dealers, and we're very successful, right? We had a lot of good people who worked in our narc division. I was on loan to narcs from time to time. That wasn't my home. I got to do some property crimes undercover work and some narcotics undercover work, and it was awesome. I had some good mentors and some great people around me to help me develop some of my skill in those particular pieces. The narc piece and the property crimes, the UC work. So anyway, we were posing as dealers on July 28, 2010. And it just so happens there were a lot of people in that deal on the bad guy side, and
Unbeknownst to you, though.
unbeknownst to me, I was called into the deal late. You know, I just needed to come in and just fulfill a small role, if you will, right? A small role that would become bigger later. So it wasn't uncommon for it to be a last minute, hey, we got something going. And like I said, that Narcs wasn't my home, but you know, I volunteered to help out anytime I could, you know, just for the experience and to learn what I could.
This wasn't all a Chandler's deal, right? It wasn't a multi-agency kind of thing. It was just
Correct.
Chandler.
On this particular day, yes. This particular day was a Chandler operation, and we were doing a deal in Phoenix, and during that deal, I mean, there were a lot of indicators that, you know, in hindsight, you know, kind of
Him hodding back, you were kind of
right.
You should have paid attention to those flags, is what you're saying?
Right. Flags is a great word, right? So there's some flags here and there, but you know, we're professionals and we try to do what we can and make the deals go, and so, you know, at the end of the day, we wound up dealing with a group that wanted to kill us and take the dope, you know, and that's
The Rip Crew.
that's what it came down to, right? So it caught us off guard, and you know, 3 of us went in, and 2 of us lived through the shooting. You know, 1 of us didn't make it. Carlos Ledesma was killed as a result of the incident. I myself was shot, and Brian was shot, and it was surreal. It was surreal, and I'll tell you, as much as I can go into details.
Trial's still not done. How many years later?
We're 8 plus years, right? It happened July 28th, so we're 8+ years into this. And we're still dicking around waiting for the Maricopa County justice system to actually kick in gear.
Right.
So it's some frustration, and it sure as hell hasn't helped the healing process.
Prolonged it with court.
Oh, without a doubt.
Having to watch all that shit and
hearing
unroll,
after hearing, listen
right.
to these clowns.
And I've been with you in some of those courts.
Yeah.
That's some rough shit. When Widow gets up and has a little time to speak their piece, and
it's heart-wrenching.
That was rough.
It's definitely rough, and you know, when you know that there's just a right and wrong, and that it's pretty simple. I mean, overall, you know, it shouldn't take this long to adjudicate or, you know, to bring to a closure. Right. But apparently, over 8 years, you know, and like I said, when you're sitting there and you're listening to these clowns posturing and maneuvering, and by clowns I mean the attorneys that like to prolong things.
Motion after motion.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. I've never known that you could have a hearing about a hearing to learn if you need another hearing.
Right.
I've never seen some shit like that in my life. But apparently these people collect a check and they must get paid hourly.
They do very well too.
Absolutely ridiculous. So I will tell you that, you know, I was excited to play the, you know, as much as I looked at it as it was a great learning experience for me doing the deals. You know, I was privileged to work with the guys I work with.
Had you done a deal before like that?
Yeah.
So you were used to the reversals.
Yeah. I don't know how used to anything you can get when you do UC work, right?
Right.
But I'd gotten a few under my belt, and I felt confident enough in how we did things, and we, you know, that day it went wrong. You know, at the end of the day, that's what
as wrong as it could be.
Right.
Right.
It went wrong. So I will tell you that, you know, the aftermath, you know, and I'll get into details a little later, you know, as much as I can.
Right.
But the aftermath of that is what sparked PISTLE, right? For all of us, is the aftermath of all of our incidents with the founding fathers here, right? It was some catalyst that put us in a room together at some point, thanks to Dr. Robbie Adler Tapia. She's out in Tempe, and in no way, shape, or form, and I plug in people, and I'm just factually telling you how PISTLE came to be, and she was instrumental in putting a group of us together who didn't
know we existed.
Well, we didn't all get hurt the same way. Right. And
at different times.
Right. And so we wound up, forget how we got there, but we wound up in the same pool dealing with a lot of the same shit.
Right.
And I think that's the best way to describe it. Right. I mean, your issue that
Had
got
nothing-
you
yeah.
had nothing to do with what got me into that pool.
Right.
You know, but we were all swimming and
Yeah, we're all eating together at the same table now.
right. But when you're doing it by yourself, it's scary. You know, and you
Yeah.
think you're the only person dealing with those demons. And again, I'll get into the demons later. But we met for coffee and donuts on a Saturday, and we got to meet some great people. And when you got to talking, we had moments where we were laughing, moments where we were crying, and moments where you could see the anger and the frustration come through. And
Everybody goes through that stage.
Yeah, and all we did was, communicate what happened to us and then what we were feeling afterwards. And it was so natural to do around other people who know exactly what you're talking about without you having to break down those emotions.
Right.
They get it. They get when you say,
I'm not sleeping.
Right, I'm not sleeping, or I've
I'm
got
angry.
this loop in my head and I can't make it go away. It's the incident over and over and over again, or these sounds that just won't go away, or
Certain smells.
Right. And so those are the things when you can find somebody who just gets it and you don't have to break everything down. It seems like it's a little easier to discuss. It's easier to talk about, because the deeper you go into the emotion and what's driving it, the harder it is to communicate it, because you become emotional,
Right.
So
because you don't feel that other person is going to understand.
Right.
You just wake up and you say, I woke up pissed off, and people want to know why.
Right.
Why'd you wake up mad? I can't fucking tell you right now.
Right, because you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just don't know, right? I get asked up, and my wife, God bless her, she'll say, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Nah, I don't know what it is," and she's okay with that because she's learned, right?
Now.
It's a learning curve, right?
Now.
8+ years later, she gets it, right? Sometimes there's just no answer,
So you get in this critical incident. You're shot, your partner shot, and Carlos is killed. When you get all that out of the way and you're at the hospital, do you know right away that you're fucked up in the head at this point, or are you still coming down off the high of what's going on? And
not at all. You're still reeling from what happened, right? I mean, half the time I kept thinking, is this real? Am I going to wake up? I mean, it was so surreal. It was so unbelievable how it went down, and the things that we faced in that house. We had multiple targets. I mean, you're talking 8 or 9 suspects, and I say 8 or 9 because that's debatable later, right? So you're talking 8 or 9 suspects. It's never less than 8 for all of you that want to run your suck. I'll
Google
tell you.
it.
Yeah, it's never less than 8. But it's traumatic when you not sure that you're going to walk away, but your training kicks in. You do what you do, right? We go into just do what you can mode, right? And you don't really process it in real time, right? You deal with what you got to deal with, and at the end of the day, after all said and done, you take a minute to reflect. And I think I still, even in the ER, I was feeling the emotion of Carlos, right? That he had been killed, because I had my confirmation in the ER. But even then, right, I'm still trying to deal with, okay, I got a bullet hole in me, right? I took one in the torso.
You got your wife there. You got family there. You got cops there.
And that, from all the way from when I got into the ambulance, trying to text my wife. I had a good buddy with me. I still love you, Leon. Great guy. He's trying to use my phone, and I'm one of those techie.
You're an Android guy.
Yeah, techie Android
what
guys,
it is.
or goofy guys who are nerds. For those of you who can't run a machine and just get pissed off because we can. One of those people that I rooted my phone. I overclocked. I just made it faster, and I took a lot of the nonsense out. Yada yada.
Couldn't just leave it alone.
Right. So I had flashed it earlier, and it was jacked up, and I just didn't get a chance to fix it. It was working for somebody who knew how to work it. Right. Yeah. It was some quirky issues with the ROM I had flashed. And anyway, so I hand Leon this phone, and I'm like, hey, you got to call my wife, and give her a heads up. And I didn't know how bad it was, but I knew that, I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to talk to her to let whatever,
to let her know
whatever's
going
to
on.
come to mind, right?
Right.
I had actually tried to call after I got shot, and I was on the ground in that house, and everything got quiet. And I tried to call her, and as the phone was ringing, and I'm laying there, and my gun's in my hand. I'm thinking they're going to come right back in here, right? You know, SWAT's outside. They're going to push them right back into me as they're trying to flee the scene.
Right.
And so the phone's ringing, and I got my gun in my hand, and this thing's ringing, and I'm thinking, shit, what the hell am I going to say, right? Right in that
Well,
moment,
you're
I'm
talking,
like,
so that's a good thing
what
at
the
that
hell
point.
am I going to say? Yeah,
Yeah.
but, you know, beyond that, I don't know. I don't know how bad I am. I'm on my left side, which is where I got shot, so I was pinching it off, and, you know, in my head. I don't know if I actually was or not, but I was laying on the side that I had gotten shot, and I'm thinking, you know, if I get up and all the blood just rushes out, you know? And so I had all these thoughts in my head as I'm sitting there with my gun in my hand. I'm thinking, shit, they're going to come back in here. And what am I going to tell this woman, you know, if she answers that phone? So I hung up.
Oh,
I know, I bitched out.
Why would you do that?
I hung up because there was
That's
so
why
many things.
you know she's gonna look and see the
Right.
missed call and call you back.
She did, and she
And-
actually later on, and I'll tell you her reaction later to the story and how it unfolded. But so when I'm in the ambulance, I tell Leon, hey, try to call her, right? Because now we're safe, and I'm trying to get to the hospital, and Leon can't work the phone, so it's a comical moment, right?
Yeah.
And I'm cracking jokes because I'm terrified.
Well, yeah, that's
And
what we do.
That's the reality. I am freaking terrified, and I'm thinking, I don't know how bad this is, but when I get real nervous or scared, I start talking shit, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to, you know, talk to the
Just
and
make
these,
light of everything.
These fire guys are probably, if they ever listen to this, they'll know
Yeah.
exactly who they are, because I was like, hey, you know, because they're both wanting to stick me in both arms. I'm like, hey, should we need two of those? You
Yeah.
know, those IVs.
Is
Those
it that
needles-
bad?
Those needles
Is
were
it
big,
that
man.
bad?
You know, and they're laughing at me like, dude, you just got shot. I mean, I'm like, hey,
You're worried about it?
but I'm afraid of needles. You know
No,
what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
So, so anyway, so all this is going on, and she doesn't answer. So I dial a neighbor, who answers the phone, and Leon explains to her, listen, and I only heard the one side of the conversation, but obviously there's some questioning going on when he says, Dave's been shot. I need you to go get Liz. He's like, no, listen to me. Listen. Dave's been shot.
Right. Well, because your
Right.
neighbor's freaking out. He's got
Right. My
answers on
neighbor's
the other
just
side of that.
Right, a normal civilian
Yeah.
person, and it's my buddy's wife. It's not even my
Oh,
buddy who
geez.
answers the phone. So
It just
she-
gets better in this
right,
story,
so she's
doesn't it?
so she's just checking, like, what? You're talking about my neighbor, Dave? You know?
Yeah.
And so she winds up, while this is happening, while he's on the phone with her, I think one of the other cops who lives by me, like around a block, winds up calling because he hears that there's a shooting. He knows,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on. So he's calling my phone. It's either that or Leon chose to call him. One of the two happened, but they got a hold of him, told him the same thing. Hey, go get Liz. Dave's been shot, blah, blah, blah. And so that's all I hear about it. Right. The rest is me cracking jokes, trying to ignore the fact that
You've been shot.
that I've been dying. Right.
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
Bleeding out right now at
Right.
this
Right.
point.
I'm terrified. And God bless these firemen. Right. You know, cops and firemen always have this love-hate relationship, you know, and I do love you guys. I just don't love that you get paid to sleep. So that little quip in there. Sorry. These guys, these guys were great, man.
So you're
These
in
guys
the
were
ER, and you've already been told about Carlos.
Right.
What-
And I'm having a moment. I
Yeah.
had a moment right there where you know, I sobbed a little bit, and I thought, you know, shit, what went wrong, right? And you start playing it in your head, you know, and you start looking back at it, and you start
Now, at that point, are you getting a loop of that same scenario?
No, because the distractions around me. I'm trying to think of it, right? Because I want to know where it fucked up. Was it who fucked up, right? We as cops, it's easier when we assign blame, and we can figure out what we did wrong or who did something wrong, so we can correct it and it won't happen again, you know?
Right.
At least that's why I think we do it. But
So you're just sprawled out there in
I'm
your
laying
chonies,
there,
ready
it's
to go.
quiet, and I'm sobbing, and one of our guys, Angel, had told me, had verified what I probably already knew deep down inside, because they were working him on scene, and that, you know, that's a whole nother piece. But it was frustrating. It was frustrating to hear, and it was sad, and I was angry, and you know, just a slew of emotion the whole time, and I, you know, by the time my wife got there, she comes in, and I see her tearing up, and the first thing I can say is, you know, I'm sorry, right? I am
Sorry you got shot.
Right,
Because it's supposed to happen
you know,
that
every
way.
time I leave the house, the woman always says the same thing: "Be careful." And I'm like,
Right.
you know, always, you know,
Yeah.
I got it. You know, it's okay. Whatever we tell our wives to, you know, to make them feel
Yeah.
better, you know. And so first thing I mouth is, "I'm sorry," and she just looks at me like, you know,
You're
like, "Are you
talking.
kidding me?" Right.
Yeah.
Right. So And that was an emotional moment.
Now, does she know at that time that Carlos has passed?
I don't think so.
No, she
I
still
don't
didn't
think
know.
so. No, because she was, she was locked on. She was trying to find me. She was actually outside and trying to get in through the cops. There's
Yeah. And
you
on
know.
on a side note, we worked with your gang unit very closely in Mesa, and that day we were getting ready to do a deal, and then we shot over because we had got the call from your gang unit. And being outside, you don't ever know. There's like tiers of entries, right? You're either in the parking lot cops that are just there for the support, and then you've got the internal part at the emergency side, and then you've got another barrier inside of you. So you're pretty well self-contained at that point. We're just getting the word out that, hey, one was killed and two are still shot. I think one was critical at the time.
Right. And that was Brian.
Right. So when you're in there at that moment, as this is going on, is there a change in your thought process? Are you?
I'm stressed out, right? Because Brian's still in surgery, right? Or they're working him, right? I'm just laying there, right? They've kind of put me off to the side for a minute, so I'm kind of thinking I got to be okay because they've left me alone for a minute, right? And then eventually they take me for an MRI, and they're really great people at St. Joe's, right? I mean, when you're hurt, you're scared, and you need somebody to tell you, hey, we're going to take good care of you, and that's all I heard throughout the process. So it's huge. I know cops are seen as macho, and a lot of people talk shit, but when you're really scared, like truly afraid, all you're looking for is somebody to tell you you're okay. And usually we're that voice for somebody else, right? We show up and we're like, hey,
it's not that bad,
right? We'll make everything all right, whatever. Tell me what happened, and then we go into fix it mode. Well, when you're really scared, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody like you to just say, hey, we got you. It's okay. We're going to get you through this.
You're good.
Those are the things that you want to hear. And, that's the voice that, you try to be as a cop, right? You try to be that for other people. So when I heard that, the staff was excellent, and there were some faux pas here and there, which were comical, right? And again, I'll revisit those later. I'm just trying to give you an overview of what happened. And so the aftermath, right? So all night long, they're playing this shit on the media, on the news.
You're seeing that, right?
Yeah.
Who was the dumbass that put that on the TV for you?
I don't know. The helicopter.
No, I mean in your room. Somebody had to turn it on and put it on there.
Somebody said, "Hey,
that's
man,
a good
that thing's
idea."
All over the news.
Yeah,
right?
check it out. You're on
So
TV getting rolled out.
My wife turned on the television and we're looking at it, and I'm like,
"Oh, that's brilliant!
God, look at that fat guy.
Yeah,
that's
who's that
totally
fat guy
me.
in his chonies
That's
right
totally
there?
Me, right?
Yeah,
right.
poor guy.
So, what a horrible view, right?
So you're in there. You're getting. You're surrounded by people. I know at some point, because I've heard this story before, you decide that the hospital's not for you,
right?
And you're just gonna nut up and head to the barn, right?
Right. Except plans.
And we'll get to your story in another podcast.
Absolutely.
Like, when this is all done, we'll go deeper in depth. We'll go deeper into that. I don't want people to think I'm trying to rush you out of the story.
No.
But once it's all said and done, we'll definitely have you back to tell the entire story, because it is, I don't want to say humorous, but it's definitely a story to hear.
Oh, well, thanks.
So
I think.
Yeah. So you, for some reason, you just decide the hospital's not for you, and you're out, right?
So the next day, right, Brian was in surgery for a long time, and I know he was really hurt, and I had all these people coming to see, and I love that people care, right? All the cops that I used to work for MCSO, so there were SO cops there, and Chandler and other cops who just are genuinely good people who care, right? They're worried when one of their own gets hurt. So I will tell you that I wanted out. I wanted out because A, I hate the attention. And B, who the hell likes hospitals, right? So I didn't want these people talking to me because I had no answer. I feel like I didn't get heard enough, right? So here I am. I'm embarrassed that I'm not as hurt as bad or as badly hurt as I should be, given one guy died and the other one's critical, right?
Right.
He's a mess, and here I am. I get shot on my left side, and it goes through and through, right? It goes. I don't know if it went under my ribs and over some shit or whatever, but it came out the back, and I was all right. I had a lot of internal bleeding afterwards, and I learned, the hard way, because I talked myself out of the ICU, right? And my wife says, you can't leave the ICU. You have to go to a regular room, and there's this whole protocol. And so she had gotten home. We had a 9-month-old baby at the time, and so she had gone home to feed her, right? And because she was still breastfeeding, and so she went home. And by the time she got back, I had talked the doctor into letting me go home. And
So
she said,
you
"What-"
bypassed completely to
I
the
did.
second room
I did.
and
I did.
just left the
I
ICU.
just right from the ICU. I'm done. Right. I want to go home. And so, like I said, he was my wife loves to say that he was exhausted, and I took advantage of him. And quite possibly that's true. But I will tell you that I needed to go home because I couldn't stand to be there. I mean, I had so much anxiety, and I didn't know the gravity of that anxiety until later. And I didn't know a lot of the words that I'm going to tell you. I didn't understand, and I didn't know what they meant or what was normal and what wasn't. And, acute stress versus PTSD. I mean, these are all things that, TV just doesn't show you. Right. I mean, I make the joke about Bruce Willis in the Nakatomi building, right? He'd still be writing that fucking report, right?
Yeah.
15, 20 years later. So it's not as easy as it is on television. And so your expectations are, it doesn't happen, right? This doesn't happen very often, and then the trifecta, right? I was shot. We lost a guy, we killed people. And it was just
a bad situation the whole way around.
Surreal. Right. So I get it. I want to go home. I want to be with my kids. I want to be where I'm safe, right? Because I want to be comfortable. And my wife isn't, at her protest, and she was probably in every right to protest, but she gets me home, and that was a whole nightmare as it was, right? I think she swerved to hit every pothole because she was pissed that I was coming home.
Plus, you're probably grunting along the way because you got a fucking bullet wound in you. Yeah,
I was hurting. For anybody who's ever been shot, the best way, or not been shot, right? Maybe you guys can corroborate this. If you've ever been shot, whether it's accidental, in the leg, in the foot, hand, whatever the hell it was, when I got shot, it felt like somebody ran a red hot poker into my abdominal area with a sledgehammer. It was just like one big boom and hot. Man, it was so hot and it hurt so much, but you still had to keep fighting, right? I mean, what do you do? So I felt all the bumps on the way home, and I get home and I hug my kids, and I had my oldest at the time was 8 years, so he was 11.
Yeah.
And he you could see it on his face, like he knew he was old enough to know everything was going on, right?
Yeah.
And then I had a couple of others who were 4 and 5, I think is what they were. Let me see, 8 years ago, 13, I don't know, do the math. So
I don't do math.
So 3
young.
and 4, I think they were, right? And then we had the
so daddy's home. That's all they know.
Right.
They don't have that.
And so mom was good shielding me. Hey, dad's got dad's hurt, so let's not be rough with dad or what have you. And I was just happy to see my kids, and within that first couple of hours, people had heard that I had just gone home, and so I had people showing up to visit and to talk
checking
things
in
through, right. And you need those debriefs. You need the people who are there to talk about what happened, because there's so many pieces that I wasn't privy to, right? I only know what happened inside. I don't know what happened outside. And
so having them there, was that helpful?
It fills in the blanks, right? Because you don't know what happens outside of your piece.
I'm saying for your mental health, was it keeping your mind off of what was going on?
Yes,
I guess is the question.
Yes, because you don't
have time to stew in the shit that you just got out of.
I didn't realize that there was stewing to be done, right? I was home, and then I had my kids, and then people were visiting, and people were bringing food, right? Every time somebody gets hurt or some shit happens, right?
Yeah.
That's the first inclination. Let's bring food, right? And I love food.
Yes,
Anybody
you do.
who's seen me. So I will tell you that I had no appetite. And the food just kept coming, right? And pretty soon you couldn't even see my countertops, right? And then my table was full, and food just kept coming. And I just sat there, and just kind of talked to people. And we didn't really talk about what happened so much as the parts that are surreal, kind of like the gist of what I've given you so far. We're in this reversal. I got shot. Carlos died.
Right.
The hospital sucked. I'm home. I give people the overall because, to go into it that early on, I wasn't prepared. There are a lot of things I didn't want to talk about. Didn't know how to talk about. I mean, that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. I mean, shit, at some point you start thinking like, did I screw up? Did should I have seen this coming
Second guessing.
sooner? Right. Yeah. You start
Overthinking.
looking. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it really didn't hit me until it got real quiet and nobody was around. And I remember my wife going upstairs to put the baby down, and it's like 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock that night or maybe even later. And I just wasn't tired. And so I just sat there, the TV's on, but I'm not paying attention. And, I think that's the first time the loop started, when I started to look at it. And by the loop, I just mean, I had this reoccurring clip of the shooting that started when the guy put the gun up to my head, the rifle up to my head, and then I reacted and all the way up until we're laying there and it was quiet and I was holding my gun up and I was trying to get to my phone to call my wife, and then it would start again. The gun would come up and it's all of it. And for the longest time, that's all I could see. I could see that clip all the way through, and then it would start again. And pretty soon my wife would be in front of me talking and I didn't realize she was there. And then she's trying to get my attention, and then I'd focus and we'd have a conversation. I'm like, yeah, I'm just in my head, and I think I've called it that the entire 8+ years, right? I tell her I'm in my head, and now she understands, but initially she didn't. And so she would be there and she'd have to like wake me up. Like, you know how you get that stare at the television when you're watching something and then your old lady gets in the way and she's like, hey, and it's like, oh,
yeah, you messed it up.
Right. They startle you.
Yeah.
Because you're not paying attention to nothing. So, that's what she would do. She'd get my attention and she'd almost startle me out of it. And for a while she kept kept seeing me like that. She kept seeing my eyes glazed over and that look in my face like I wasn't present, you know, and she would always try to call me on it. She did a good job about saying, hey, you know, you okay, you know, or what have you.
Now this is going on for how long? Just almost that same night? Is it just
it happens like, so this scenario that I'm giving you happened for 2 and 3 weeks and a month, and pretty soon you'll add anger to it, right? And I'll tell you that the noises were really quick to set me off, right? My kids,
startle
when
effects,
you have little kids, man, they make noises, and it was crazy. It was crazy. It was very difficult. It was very difficult to try and rein that in, right? Because I would get angry. As soon as I got startled or scared, I would get angry.
Was a lot of that lack of sleep? Because you weren't sleeping, or were you sleeping okay?
I can tell you that, yeah. And absolutely. I wasn't sleeping for shit, right? I you know, and it obviously for all of you who are gonna make some retarded comment, I'll tell you, for almost 8 months I didn't sleep well. Okay, I caught cat naps here and there, but I was startled awake a lot, and my sleeping hours got all odd. And you start to hallucinate stupid shit, especially at like 2-3 a.m.
Lack of sleep. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I almost turned into a tweaker without the tweak, right? So it was hard because this thing would keep me awake, and as months went by, right? And so I will tell you, the first 2 days right after, because I was out and I was the only one that was available to talk to, right? The county attorney wanted me to walk the scene, right? And regardless of how much pain I was in,
they wanted that done.
Well, they asked if I would. And for me, and I can't speak for every cop on the planet, I think that most cops are this way. There's an obligation, right? One of our guys went down, right? So I have to hold it up, right? I have to say, it doesn't matter. I have to go.
Yeah, because you're left.
Right. And then after I did the walkthrough with them, then I wound up, you know, Carlos's parents, you know, wanted to talk to me. And I'd never met them. And, you know, they were in California, right? Their son had been killed. And I went to go see him. My wife's like, well, you know,
what are you doing?
Again, why are we leaving the house?
Why do you think that's a good idea?
Right. You know, and we're talking, it happened on a Wednesday, I think. And so Friday or Saturday, I'm there. Right. And I don't walk well, right? But I felt an obligation to be there. And for all of you who are in your head thinking I'm some, you know, hero bullshit, you know, complex that I have to go take on the world, that's not what it is. What it is an obligation, right? I didn't get hurt enough, so I damn well better go and tell these people that their son,
the parents are,
that their son, or that, you know, that I comfort the parents as best I can, that I do something right. You know, it's an obligation thing. It has nothing to do with anything other than I owed these people to tell them that there was, you know, I did my best, you know.
Well, you're their only answer at that point.
Right.
Because at that point, you're all that gives them what happened
Right.
there.
Right. And good, bad, or indifferent, I did my best, and, he died,
Right.
at the end of the day, it wasn't good enough. And I had to live with that. And, Brian got all tore up, and it was hard, and I think Brian went through a lot of the same feelings, right? You have that survivor's guilt, but because he got hurt really bad, like really bad, right? He took a center punch and that thing bounced all over the fucking place. And because he got hurt really bad, I think he was okay, like he was okay because he didn't go to the funeral, right? He didn't talk to his parents. There's so many things that he missed out on that I felt obligated to do. And it's what we do, at least I think that's what we're supposed to do, right? We have an obligation to do the best we can, right, to support people, right, to support his parents, to support his family, right? He had a wife and
bring closure,
two boys. Whatever it is. I couldn't pinpoint it now. Looking back, hindsight, it's just obligation is the best way I can say it. You do the best you can to comfort the people around and to be available because I didn't get hurt enough, right? And so maybe it's self-punishment after the fact, but you go to all the fundraisers and you try to be there so that people can see somebody and have somebody to associate with it, maybe donate, and this was a real family and a real impact, and initially all you think is Carlos died and his family's suffering, and you don't really think about what happens to the people who survive. Not only Brian and I, who were in the house when the shooting occurred, when we were shot ourselves, but the guys who came in after the fact, who saw us all laying there. Nobody takes those people into consideration. And there are so many pieces of it that just don't get picked up. Those pieces kind of lay there forever, and I saw this, myself deteriorate over the course of a year. And so 8 months in, I'll get back to it. I'm sorry. 8 months in, I realized that I'm not getting better, right? I'm probably getting worse. Physically, I'm great. Physically, by 8 months in, I'm doing way better. Everything's good. I'm solid, right? Not solid for any of those who saw me, but I'm better. But I'm not right. I know I'm not
mentally
right because my family's walking on eggshells and I'm a soup sandwich, right?
Still not sleeping.
Mess. No, I'm a mess. I did go to my PCP, my primary care physician, who gave me Lunesta, and God bless Lunesta.
Good stuff, right?
Holy shit. Yeah. So the first 2 weeks I was the happiest camper on earth.
Put you down.
Because 8 hours, whether you like it or not, right?
Yeah, shuts everything off.
Right. And so we were able to get help, right? I wound up calling the PD. Sorry, we had some issues on the computer here, and we're gonna need a password to shut this damn thing off. So anyway, you might want to text him to start moving. So I call the PD and I'm like, hey, I need help. It's I don't know what's wrong. It's getting worse. It's in my head. I need help. And I wind up going to a lady in Chandler, and I throw out her name, but she's a great lady. She's a great lady. Well,
she gave it her best shot.
No. And she was a great lady, and I would not disparage her in any sense of the word, but Chandler saw that she specialized in police officers, and so I went and I sat in front of her and I threw up all the vile, angry things that I felt, and all the emotion and what had happened. And she had this look on her face, and it's like, I think everybody knows this look, but as a cop, you better know this look. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're like.
Right.
Why are you? I can't believe you're sitting here telling me this story, right?
You need a doctor.
Right.
That's what they feel looking at you like that.
She says,
you need help.
She says, there's been a mistake. And I thought, what mistake is that? Right. And she says, she goes, I know why they sent you here, but I specialize in marriage counseling.
Oh my God.
Right.
You're serious.
So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at her and I'm like,
no issues with the marriage though. I got shot, my partner died.
Right.
What can you do with that?
Well, I'm sure my wife's pissed at me, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's on the back end of this
that's a couple months down the road here.
That I'm carrying, right? So she looks at me and she says that, And I remember through the EAP program, the Employee Assistance Program, I remember them telling me before I ever went that I get 10 visits, right? And I looked at her and I said, well, they gave me 10 visits and you're going to sit here for every fucking one of them.
Every one of those
right?
motherfuckers
Right?
are sitting there
She's
in that
just like,
chair.
stand by.
Yeah.
And God bless her. I felt bad later, right? In hindsight, but she got on the phone and she got in their ear and said whatever needed to be said, and they sprung into action and they actually found like a trauma specialist, right? An actual doctor.
Yeah, the
with
doctor.
Trauma.
Tell me that
So-
she stayed for all 10 though, right?
She
You made her
stayed
stay for all 10.
I know.
God
Again,
bless. She got every bit of that degree.
I feel obligated, so I obligated somebody else. And she was a great lady, and I don't know why I held her to it, but I think she took an interest in the story and wanted to follow through as best she could, and she
was nosy, right?
She
you want to know what's going on.
I think she came from a place of love, and so I went and saw a trauma specialist up in North Phoenix, and for some reason nobody takes work comp and nobody specializes in trauma east of the I-10. So or
in the state,
or south of the fucking 60, right? Or south of the north of the Red Mountain 202 for this matter, but all the way up in North Scottsdale. And so after all said and done, I wind up with 4 people that I see, right? I wind up with the original trauma or the original counselor that they gave me.
Counselor.
Then I had the trauma specialist.
Is that a psychologist?
She's a
psychologist?
Yeah, I think she's a psychologist.
Okay, there's 2.
You're right. Pat Johnson up north. She was
psychologist.
right. And then Gary Prince.
A psychiatrist.
A
You're a drug dealer, right?
Right. That's the pusher.
Yeah.
And just kidding.
What are
They
you
have their
talking about?
place. They have
Deal
their
drugs.
place.
That's what they do.
It's not a fair. It's not being fair. So then I wound up. Pat actually found Dr. Robbie Adler Tapia, who specialized in EMDR.
So what? I guess not to cut you off, but you're seeing these doctors, but for what reason? What's going on besides the anger, the loop, and how's that affecting you? I guess is what got you to that point where you're without a shadow of a doubt you something's wrong. I mean, clearly you're shot, your partner's dead. I think it stands to reason that you should be fucked up, but I guess trying to convey to people that are listening to this, like what are the symptoms that you're going through at this point? We know that you're not sleeping.
Right.
You got a loop in your head. You got some anger issues. Is there anything else? Depression? Is there anxiety from everything you said? Loud noises. But what else is going on in there? How's the family life going?
I think that's what it comes down to, right? When your kids start anticipating the cringe, right, or when they start disappearing when you're grinding your teeth, like they can see, they see all the emotions that you're going through. They've learned, right, because you've exploded 9,000 times
in a day,
for very trivial shit, right? And so they start to learn you, and it gets to the point where those reactions, they finally sink in, and you realize that this isn't fair, and it isn't. Your kids and your wife, they didn't ask for this, right? This job was my choice. It was mine to carry, and here I was spreading my weight on everybody else, and my wife did the best she can to carry whatever she could carry. But at the end of the day, I honestly thought that I'm probably going to lose my family if I can't get my shit together, right? And so that's what prompted the call, right? Because really your kids are crying all the time when you explode, and when you realize as you become this Hulk for no fucking reason, right? Because of a loud noise or whatever it was.
Somebody left the ceiling fan on,
right?
Or something.
Whatever the fuck the excuse, and that's what it boils down to. Whatever it was the excuse for me to act like an asshole, right? I would almost step outside of myself and look at this guy yelling and saying these angry things and think, "Shut up, just shut up. What are you doing?" Like I couldn't grab onto this beast that just kept
coming out
in his ugly head,
Right.
So those are the things that eventually prompted me to get help, and I can see, the old cliches, you always watch the movies where the cop's a drinker and he's divorced, 3 and 4 times. It's almost a joke, right?
Yeah.
The cliche over the years.
Sits at a bar all night.
All the different shows. I understand why they get there. The shows never do an adequate job of showing you
how they got there,
get there, right?
Yeah, they just at the bar already.
Right. But and later on you learn what self-medicating is, right? I self-medicated with food for long before I got shot, right? You self-medicate. You find something. Some people self-medicate correctly, right? And use exercise and all those,
workout.
right? Not me. That was
take time for
not
the family.
my problem. So I
So
I self-medicated in different ways than other people, right?
did anyone at the department check on you relative to your mental state? I mean, physically, you're back at work. I think you had said that the first day back, everything's stuck in that time, right? That day.
Well, I haven't said it here, but you've heard me speak,
Right.
right? Manny and I, for those who don't know, we speak at different conferences and stuff, and we try to bring awareness to the topic and really try to help people understand what they're dealing with if they don't know, and maybe speak on it to the administration to kind of get them to understand, where a lot of people drop the ball in our, a lot of our experience with guys who've come through the peer support groups. And so yeah, it's exactly what happened. I tried to go to work within the first in those first 3 or 4 months, right when I had healed up. I had tried to go back to work, and I was trying to get into the building, and there were times where my stomach would knot up, and I would feel like I was going to puke, and my heart would start racing, and I'd start sweating, and all I'm doing is keying into the freaking
Just
gate,
using your
right?
badge
I'm just
to get
trying
through.
to get into the freaking the parking ramp, and I'm driving up the ramp, and I would just stop, and I turn around, and I go home. And there were days when I made it as far as the door, and eventually I got through the door, and by the time I made it to my desk, you're right, that's exactly what I saw was this day frozen, right? July 28th, 2010 was on everything I wrote that day, because it was at the end of the day when I was pulled into the deal. And even that gave me anxiety, right? So I sat there for about 10 seconds, looked around, I got up, and I left, right? I could
I'm
not
good. Got my time in.
I could not figure it out, right? And I knew it was an emotional issue, right? I knew why I was hurting, but I didn't know where the racing heart, the sweat, the knotting in my stomach, the panicky
Right.
feeling. I didn't know what the hell that was, right? And so I was messed up, right? And later on, when those feelings reared their head, right, I blamed them on the meds that I was on, right? So
Everything except for what was actually going on is what you were.
right, because you don't know, right? It wasn't for almost a year till I got to see the trauma doc, right? So when they explained it to me and what it was, you hear the words acute stress or PTSD, and you think that does not happen, right? That's a veteran thing. That's a
Military.
That's a
War.
military thing. They own that, right? They
Yeah.
have the copyright to that. That's not me.
It's not
right?
us.
Right. And come to find out, I was wrong, as I am wrong about a lot of things. Wifey, I hope you heard that, because I won't say it ever again. I was wrong, and it wasn't anything but my brain was not acting the way I wanted it to, and I'd get emotional over shit that I would not. I mean, commercials, right? You'd watch a commercial, and all of a sudden, I'm tearing up.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my wife, and she's looking at me like, "What just happened?" Right? And I'm like, "I
Shouldn't
don't know.
be crying on this commercial,
I
Dave.
don't know, right? Right? Who
Yeah.
the hell cries at a commercial? Period. Right?
Yeah.
So these are all things that were happening that we call in the business clues, right?
Yeah.
And so when I started getting help and I started to understand things, I became angry towards myself, right? Because it's almost like a betrayal, right?
You should be better.
Right, I should be better, right? This is a stupid problem to have. That's all I kept thinking was I don't
Deal with
understand,
it.
right?
Get over it.
Just
Move on.
Just get back up on a horse, and I tried. I went to work, and I spent time at work, and over the course of this time, it just was not working. And long story short, I wound up going to police week, and I'll get into that later. That's bittersweet for me, but I saw Carlos's name on the memorial, and it was that following year in May. So I'd never been there before, and it was very emotional.
Yeah, I bet.
So I took my family, and it just so happened that 3 months after, I think it was 3 months after my shooting, my brother's a cop in Jersey, right? I'm here in Arizona. He's in Jersey. So his buddy Abraham, who he had gone through the academy with, was killed in a car wreck on duty. And so my brother met me down there, and we just kind of were lost in the I mean, it was crazy to see so many freaking cops in one place, right?
Yeah.
we're all the same, but we're all different,
Yeah.
right? You could tell, you know, those of us who are from a place where people don't like cops, right? We don't look like cops.
Yeah.
We don't show our badges. We don't walk around with our guns.
Exactly.
Right? We are
You hide
non-cop. Right.
Yeah.
Right. We hide shit. Right. And then on the East Coast, it's more like, you know, they celebrate it, right? They're more family oriented
Right.
cop world.
Well, yeah.
And so they're walking around with their shit hanging out, and I'm like, wow, that's just weird to see, right? It's weird, even though I grew up
two totally
there,
different worlds, bro.
right? It's completely different. So, but yeah, that next year and a half was just learning what the hell was wrong and why it was affecting me the way it was affecting me. And by the time I got a grip on some shit and started to really get an understanding and do the work to try to manage those symptoms and those triggers and those things that would drive me to a point where I become the Hulk, you know?
Yeah.
It was time to shit or get off the pot, and I wasn't ready. Right, my time had run out, and you know, Chandler wants their employee back, right? So
Exactly.
so it's like, you coming to work or not?
Calls
you
for
know?
service, bro.
And so I did. I had to get shit off the pot, and all I kept thinking in my, was, you know, do I go back to work and something happens where my squad has to either lie for me or testify against me,
Against you,
right?
yeah.
And how do you put the people you love in that kind of situation, right? So and I work with a great group of people, and you know, I can say that I've never worked with anybody that was malicious or had ill intent towards other people, and I work with some really great guys at the SO and at Chandler, and till this day I love them, you know, but I wound up taking a retirement, and I will tell you that when you get shot and you have a physical injury, you know, or any physical injury for that matter, but especially when you get shot, and I'll tell you the distinction. People understand that you're in pain, that you're hurt, right? And then somebody dies in your incident. They understand that. They understand how that can be traumatic.
It's clear and cut.
Right. It's real simple, right? They can put those numbers together and everything works out even. But when you're hurt in a different way, you know, they expect you to suck it up, right? You twist your knee or you hurt your shoulder and you're wrestling somebody and you jack your hand up or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, cops love to talk massive shit, right? I mean, we do, and I it's just
a lot more
just
clear, I think. Yeah.
It's just a culture, but
Nobody wants to get shot.
right.
Nobody wants to break their ankle jumping a wall.
Right.
Like we all go through that, twist our ankles. We don't want that. Right. It's a physical pain we can see. Limps. In this situation, you can appear to be almost okay as long as you don't get pissed off. Right. You're not going to get pissed off at the department.
Nobody sees the shit that's going on in your head
or at your house.
And they can't understand it. And so when you tell them that things are fucked up, they kind of look at you like, you look fine.
Right.
You know? And they don't realize how much energy goes into subduing that crazy person that just comes out of nowhere for the smallest of thing. And that trigger could be anything. And for the first while, you didn't know what the hell it was, right? And it was different things each time, but you were just like a victim of this thing that was happening, and you couldn't figure out what the hell was the problem. And as you learn, you start to figure out how to manage, and you start to figure out how to stay away from those stressors, right? How to avoid the cop shows and movies, right? That set you off, or those loud noises, right?
Not to go to Walmart on a Saturday.
Oh God, Costco.
Not to go to Walmart
don't
ever.
Go to Costco when the snowbirds are in town. You want to lose your shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, normal people lose their shit,
And
but when you're jacked up, that's not the place to be.
for us.
Right.
Ever.
Right. So let that be my first bit of advice.
So
People. Don't go to Costco on a Saturday.
So at this point, you've got. Has anyone checked on you at this point mentally? I guess that was the original question. Was it because we don't ask. Like I can't say that you would actually believe that. What do you say to somebody like I didn't think about that before my PTSD. I had partners. We'll talk about it in another episode, but do you pick up the phone and say, "Hey, bro, how you sleeping?" Like it's kind of personal at that point. Do you?
No. A lot
'cause-
of my friends would call and see how things were going.
And
right?
what's your standard response to
The
that?
standard response is, no, everything's good, man.
Yeah.
Getting better. You
Great.
know? Great.
Right.
Right.
Can't wait to get back to the fucking beat.
Some nonsense. To
Yeah.
just get him,
Tell me what happened
get
to
him
old
off the
fucking
topic.
Tell me
right?
what happened to old boy when he got an IA. You
Right.
want to catch up on the times, right?
Right. And it becomes very right. I started to hide at home. You know, I didn't want to go out anywhere because of those triggers. And because
Prior
I
to
was set
retiring
off-
or after retiring or both?
Before. I was better after I retired. I had gotten better progressively by then, but I still wasn't in a place where I could do the job. So but you start to hide at home, and my family became like my security blanket, and my wife, and I didn't want her going anywhere. And we had a new baby, and then she had to spring into action and go to work, and
Yeah.
all this shit was happening, and all I could initially, when this first happened, all I could see was like 2 inches in front of my face, and I knew I was breathing, and that was the burden for the day, right? I couldn't think past anything else, right? My wife asking me what I wanted for lunch or dinner would set me the fuck off, right? I mean, how could you dare ask me a question like
Food.
that, right?
It's
I
really
look
easy.
at her, I'm like,
Food.
look at me.
Yeah.
Am I picky? Just fucking pick something, right? So, I mean, I just couldn't think. And so anytime there was a question, I think I didn't trust myself to answer. After the shooting, I didn't trust anything anymore. I couldn't make a decision. And so I had to defer to her, right? And so when she wasn't there, right,
It was panic mode.
right. And then I've got my kids, and I'm by myself with my kids. My wife's like, I don't want to leave you alone with my kids.
Exactly.
Right? So, there's so many things in hindsight, looking back. I mean, that you regret, right? I mean, your kids shouldn't be afraid of you. They shouldn't.
Right.
And those are the things that hopefully push you into getting help instead of divorcing and drinking, or self-medicating in whatever ways, gambling, sex, whatever your vice is. But as I got into this group on Saturdays and around like-minded people who could understand
Therapies, right?
Right,
We can
right.
speak on that another time, but there's therapies that
I'll
you
tell
go
you
through.
what, yeah, you'd asked me 10 years ago about therapists and psychologists. I tell you,
I would've never done it.
Yeah, they were nonsense, right?
Yeah.
It's all bullshit.
It's just to
right?
get a job in PD and
But I will tell you, right, when you're hurt and you're humbled, right? I hope. I will tell you, I was humbled. I'm not going to tell you everybody gets humbled, but
Yeah.
I was humbled because I needed help, and I was going to do anything and everything, right? So if they prescribed a med, I was taking it. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to tell nobody that I wasn't taking meds. I was going to take the meds because all I was looking for is that magic pill to get me better.
right.
I just needed something to fix me, right? And I remember walking into Robbie's office, almost a whole year after the incident, and she said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I thought, "The fuck you say?
Yeah.
Right? 5 years?
5.
You want to know where you got 2.5 hours to fix this shit, right? I mean, 5 years. How bad are you at your job? I was so pissed that you would ask me that question. And I will tell you that damn near 5 years went by before I could tell you that I was really, feeling solid. So it's comical because when we hit the 5 year mark, but that was 5 years of doing the work, right? That was going to my shrink appointments, and pardon the derogatory term for those of you who take offense to it, but
That was a
shrinks.
full-time gig.
It was
right?
a full-time gig, right? You had all these
2
people
3
you had to go
times a week.
see, meds and all this shit, and then dealing with workman's comp, which is a whole nother fucking
That's a whole nother
nightmare.
podcast, bro.
Right. Yeah, you just want to hear his bitch for an hour. That'll be that podcast. So, they treat you like a boilerplate, right? Like you're some guy that smashed his thumb with a hammer, and when the fuck are you coming back to work? And
It's your job.
We
You
think
should be
you're
dealing
better.
with
We're
it.
stopping to pay, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden they don't, no warning or nothing, and they didn't realize. I don't think they really give a shit, to be honest with you. But workman's comp is another animal, and I will tell you that you guys need to distinguish, those of you who are in this situation, the PD or the sheriff's office or whatever, the agency itself is not usually the issue. It's the bean counters over at the city or over at the county,
Insurance companies.
right? Who have that money, mindset, and that want you back to work. They want you off the boob, if you will, and they don't want to pay, and it becomes a fight, and your integrity's questioned, and they
Yeah.
think you're fucking
A lot of
playing.
betrayal.
They think you're full of shit, right? And it's crazy because then they start sending you to IMEs, right? These independent medical experts, and they're these people would, and I hope this part pisses you off, because it to this day it pisses me off. I would go somewhere to the doctor that they sent me to be evaluated, because they no longer feel that like I should be uh, taken care of.
Yeah.
And their doctor would agree, right? And they'd write a whole report and tell you how fucked up I was,
Right.
and all these things, right? And you'd think at that point they'd be like, oh shit, man, we need to help this guy. No, that prompted another IME, right?
IME.
Because that guy must be fucking crazy,
Yeah.
right? We're not going to listen to that guy. We're going to send you to another
one.
guy who's going to see it our way, right? And when that guy says, no, he's fucked up, right? He needs some help, and these are the things we suggest. Then they're like, let's try somebody else, right? So this shit happens to be legal in fucking Arizona for anybody who knows this shit. I don't know why anybody would do this job here, but it should piss you off, because, you know, I've heard comments to where, oh, cops have benefits. You're absolutely right. We have medical benefits. But when some shit happens to you on the fucking job, and you act honorably and you do everything you're supposed to do, and you don't bring dishonor to the agency, and you did the best you can in a really shitty situation, you know, you expect that everything will be taken care of. You expect that they have your back. And when they start questioning your integrity, and they start sending you all these people, and they stop paying you, and they're trying to push you, they push you around, and they push you to the point where I can see how most people would just walk away and just dump the claim and say the hell with it.
Yeah.
You know, but I could not fathom that they would do that, you know, and here I was living it, and I was so angry. And, you know, it's frustrating. You know, nobody wants to fake this shit. Nobody wants to nobody wants to admit it out loud, right? I'm fucked up, right? Yeah. And to this day, I am so much better than I was, right? I am so much better than I was. And I can tell you that straight up and honestly, I did the work. You know, for all you guys who listen to me, I'm 8 years plus from this incident, and I'm better. I'm so much better. I can't even begin to tell you, but I did the work. I went to my shrink appointments. Yeah. I
took the meds.
We did this group thing where we
started PISTLE.
PISTLE was a huge piece, because I had somewhere to go and I had something to focus on, and being around other people doing the anonymous external peer support, right? Because we're not bound by anybody,
right? None
of the agencies. We're not beholden to anybody but the IRS, because we're a 501c3. So, we had to deal with this thing as a group, right? You get to voice these things, and the people who are new to it get to say, holy cow, somebody else has dealt with it. And they see when I can say, hey, I'm 8 years out and I'm so much better. I do all these things. These things used to bother me. They don't anymore. And they can see hope, right? Because they're at the beginning of it and they're thinking, there's no way I can deal with this. I'm the only one, right? Because that's what I thought, right? But when we get into these groups and you hear these stories, and you can hear some of the old heads that have been there a minute imparting the wisdom, it helps you. It helps you, and quite frankly, when you're around other people and you're looking at them, and you know, we used to laugh and say it in group where we'd say, you know, you show up hoping that somebody's more fucked up than you, so you can feel better about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So
then you turned out you're the most fucked up guy in the group.
Right. Well, I'm sure you can find somebody else to blame. Hang that time.
Bring that new guy in.
Right. We're all looking at him. Hopefully he's
this guy's got to be messed up.
So it's not, you know, it's not a title you want. So you're hoping to hang it on somebody else. So, with that being said, you know, we got 5 minutes to go, and I don't want to continue to harp on any specific issue, other than when you're inside your head all the time and you're blown up on your kids, and you and your old lady aren't getting along, you gotta figure it out. You got to. And I think any traumatic issue, like the best thing I could have done was laid at my wife's feet and let her make the decisions, because you don't
that's
make
rough, bro. That's rough.
I know it's hard.
That's not something you're going to get people to buy off on.
You don't make major decisions when you're broken. You know, it's a bad fucking idea. And
I
so
think machismo gets in the way. You think you're going to fix it. That's our position. Male or female, you're going to fix it.
Absolutely. I believe that wholeheartedly. But, you know, when you married that person because you respect and love them, and you know they have your back, you got to listen. And I will tell you that's probably number one. You know, you got to listen to that person, and you got to believe that that's what a partner does. You got to be 100% honest, because if they don't know where you're coming from, you know, they're just the brunt of your anger. You know, they're the target. and they can't see past your anger,
Right.
and so you have to communicate. Communication and honesty is the top priorities for you to start to heal. And
Definitely reach out.
Yeah.
Without shame was a big deal. We'll get to that another podcast.
That's another piece. Shame and rage.
Yeah,
man.
trying to get that under control is bad. So we'll be doing this at least twice a month. That's what we're planning on doing.
That's our goal to start it off. So see if anybody
see
even
if
has
everybody
interest.
bites on it, and hopefully we'll get better at this because we're not real good. It's weird because it used to be that you were worried about speaking in public. And seeing people, and I'd rather much see people. I mean, we spoke in
100%. Staring at you
200
with
officers,
big ass mic in
and
my
now we're
face
sitting here
is
with
just
microphones in a
horrible.
small den trying to figure stuff out. But hopefully, you guys will dig it. We'll upload it to our Facebook. You guys can comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Doesn't matter. If you let us know, and hopefully, you'll keep listening.
And
anything else?
Just check out our website, PISTLE.org, PISTLE.org. If you don't want to admit it, but you need to reach out, then just reach out.
It's anonymous, right?
It is anonymous.
I answer the calls. I don't ask names.
Yeah.
I just
please don't just call for the hell of it to be a dick, okay? Because that's not what we're looking for. We genuinely try to help people. None of us are compensated. Nobody in Pistol
is. This
has
is all
ever caught a
volunteered.
check. So know that it comes from a place of love and understanding, and that's the biggest piece of it.
So we'll see you on the next one, I guess, right?
Like us on Facebook, please. Please like us on Facebook.
I guess that matters.
It does matter. I'm learning this social media shit. I'm 43 years old.
I'm supposed to learn it too.
Know.
So we'll see you on the next one. Hopefully you dig it, and hear you soon.
All right. Let's see if I can shut this shit off.